Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 109th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And this week we are going to talk about chasing waterfalls in North Carolina. Now, you know by now, if you've listened to any of my past episodes, that waterfalls come up quite frequently. If I'm in a location where there's a waterfall nearby, I'm going to usually try to find it. I mean, our big family summer adventure this year was to Niagara Falls. Well, we decided before the end of the summers, we wanted to go back to a place we had been before. We love the mountains. And the Gatlinburg area is one of my husband's favorite places. But we also love going to North Carolina. And several episodes ago, I talked to you about the travel triangle. Actually, it was one of our first episodes of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. We talked about how so many guests, so many travelers in Northeast Mississippi go to the Gatlinburg Smoky Mountains, Orlando for the theme parks, and then the Gulf Coast for the beach. But sometimes you want to go somewhere different, but you still love some of those things in your places that you go every year. So you want some things to remind you of them. So if you love the Gatlinburg area, where I'm going to talk about this week is somewhere you want to put on your list, and that is the mountains in North Carolina. Now, we stayed in Cashers. Also located nearby would be Highlands, North Carolina. So this is not going to be far from the Georgia border or the South Carolina border. So think about in that corner there. Also, Cherokee, North Carolina is another option. Lots of mountains in North Carolina, Boone, Blowing Rock. Like I said, there's some beautiful options, but we stayed in Cashers, and this was our second trip. The first time we went was summer of 2020, and we all know it was a different time then. So we wanted to go somewhere outdoors. We wanted to go somewhere where there weren't going to be a lot of people, but we had options where we could go for hikes, see waterfalls, enjoy some things outdoors just for our family. And we found Cashers to be perfect for that. So imagine the Gatlinburg Mountains surrounding in the Smoky Mountains, but not the over-commercialization that sometimes comes with that area. That's one thing that my 12-year-old London said that he loved about North Carolina is that it feels like that it's just where people go to live and relax. Like it doesn't feel like a tourist destination. But on the way there, we passed a zip lining, a U-Pick flower farm. You can go whitewater rafting both nearby in North Carolina, and you're not too far from the Ocoee in Tennessee. So there's lots of options for outdoor activities. So many waterfalls. It's known as a Waterfall Trail. They have what's called the Waterfall Byway, which is US Highway 64. So many different ones. And here's another thing that I love about these waterfalls. Oftentimes, some of the waterfalls in the Smokies, you have to hike 2+ miles in. They're going to be very strenuous. They're going to be difficult if you have small children. I'm traveling with a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old, but 4 years ago, the boys were, much younger, and so they weren't going to be able to do longer, harder hikes. I'm also thinking of myself as being a 40-year-old. I am not, ready to hike 5 miles in and 5 miles out. Some people might be, but if you're going with, a big group or family, you have young kids, older family members wanting something that has some options for seeing waterfalls that is accessible, then North Carolina has some great options. I'm going to share some of my favorite waterfalls that we went to. Bridal Veil Falls Waterfalls is one. And again, this was right near the Highlands area. They're very close, Highlands and Cashers. So it is right off the road. At one time, you could actually even drive under it. So when I say right off the road, you could see it as you're driving by. Not a whole lot of a trail there, but it's still a beautiful spot to see a waterfall, and you cannot get closer to the road than Bridal Falls. Now, if you want something that has the option of being able to walk further, not a lot, but being able to walk further, then Dry Falls is probably my favorite waterfall in the Highland area. You can actually walk behind the falls. And the cost was like $3 a car. So you can scan when you pull into the parking lot. It's not something you even have to pre-book. You can pay with cash, or they have the option where you can scan a QR code to pay and have all-day access. They even have an accessible overlook there where if you don't want to have to walk down the stairs, was not a ton of stairs. We barely even got winded coming up those stairs. So that's how you know it was not bad. But it was a beautiful walk behind the falls. And I've shared a lot of pictures on our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate, Whimsical Destinations. A lot of these options for falls even include swimming holes. Now, Dry Falls and Bridal Falls do not. And this other one that I'm about to mention does not. But then I'm going to mention a few that do. Whitewater Falls in the Nantahala National Forest. That's a great thing. Whether you're doing a waterfall hike or just a mountain hike, you're also surrounded by multiple national forests here. So Whitewater Falls is over 400 feet. It is the highest waterfall in North Carolina, actually the highest east of the Rocky Mountains. It is a must-see, absolutely beautiful cascading falls that goes not only in North Carolina, but the way it goes down, it even flows. There's a lower part of the falls that goes into South Carolina. So it's beautiful, an accessible trail there. Again, same thing. We could do the QR code or pay in cash, $3 for the car. And if you have a certain national forest park pass, then that's even included if you have one of those annual passes. So it's an accessible trail. You can get to the overlook where you can see the falls. But if you want to get a little bit closer, there is a stairway, a wooden stairway that goes down where you can get a closer view of the falls. And so we chose to do that. Remember, in this case, what goes down must come up. So going down was really easy, and you actually go down first and then you come back up. So a lot of the trails are going to be that way for the waterfalls. You're going to go down, so it's going to feel easier on the front end, and then you're coming up on the way out. But it still wasn't bad. Even Christian, who is known, my 7-year-old son, is known for not loving hiking. He loved the waterfall views, but hiking is just not his favorite. He said he loved the views, but those are a lot of stairs. But it's still worth it. Now, if you are traveling with kids and you want to have a really unique experience, a lot of the waterfalls in North Carolina have swimming holes to them. Now, we didn't go this time, but 4 years ago when we went to Sliding Rock in North Carolina. It's only a $5 fee for this if you want to slide down the rock. But imagine a natural water slide. That's the best way to describe it. Now, there's another one that has a similar sliding rock. So there's not just one. There's a small sliding rock. This sliding rock is near Cashers, North Carolina. And then there's one called Bust Your Butt Falls, where it's also going to have, I kid you not, that is the name of the waterfall. That is another one that's going to have the option where you have the natural water slide. We did this one last year, and it's a natural water slide. I would caution with really young children. It can be a little scary with young children. We did not let Christian do it the last time when he was 3, but I see young children who are going here a lot. So if your child is a good swimmer, if you're comfortable, that's something you can definitely check out. We decided to pass on this one, but the one that we wanted to return to that has a beautiful swimming hole is called Silver Run Falls. It's a 20-foot tall waterfall. So I know that doesn't sound huge, but it feels like having almost your own private swimming hole there and the waterfall. It's only a 1/4 of a mile walk too. Very easy. By the time we started walking the trail, went across a little bridge, we were right there. So I do recommend bringing water shoes to these if you're wanting to get in the water, because there's going to be rocks nearby that you're climbing and leaving some things. So have your swimming clothes, swimsuits, swim shorts, under sunblock, have your bags, have them with you when you're hiking, or some really comfortable waterproof, sandals that you're hiking in. The water here at Silver Run Falls looks like it's sparkling. Like if you look, it looks like it's like little flecks of diamonds. Absolutely gorgeous. A few other reasons why you should go to the North Carolina area if you're like, I want something, different. They have some of the most amazing farm to table restaurants with lots of outdoor seating. Whereas Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and Townsend and Sevierville, I feel like are really, all 4 seasons. I really feel like a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the area in Cache Casters and Highlands, they do seem like they're going to be primarily in the summer and early fall where everything's open. So think about the time of year if you're going. If you're planning on going in the winter, you may not be able to reach some of these locations here. The other thing I want to share with you is about Lake Glenville. We didn't go this time, but we drove right by it. But the last time we actually did a private boat ride. You can do a private boat ride, a shared boat ride. You want to book that ahead of time. I'm going to share that link in this post about our podcast on my Facebook group. But it is the highest clean water designation award in North Carolina for lakes. So that means a lot of people are going to swim in Lake Glenville. It's also the highest elevation of any lake east of the Mississippi, 26 miles of shoreline. So it's going to have some dedicated areas to swim. The coolest thing, though, is that you can see some waterfalls only from being on the water here. So when we did the 3-hour boat ride the last time, it was beautiful. We got to see Bald Eagle Nest, waterfalls, learn about the area, the history there. So much history in this area. I definitely recommend that for an excursion. If you already have a boating license, there's a marina. You can rent a boat, but if you don't, like us, then you can take the boat ride. And I will post that again. The difference between staying in Casters and Highlands, Casters to me felt more like laid back and a little more residential. Highlands is going to be more high-end boutiques, restaurants. We ate at an amazing pizza restaurant that had every type of Napoleon pizza you can imagine, including one with fig and artichokes. Absolutely delicious. Lots of outdoor seating. There's a Wolfgang Puck restaurant here in town. That should tell you all you need to know when I say high-end boutiques and restaurants. Fantastic options for accommodations. There's house rentals. There's hotels. Not as many big chain hotels are you going to find in the area. So these are going to be more small boutique hotels in both Highlands and Casters. We also ate at a food truck. We ate at a food truck there in Casters. And if you are a big fan of the Virgin River show, for me, it felt like I was in downtown Virgin River. And that's what I felt like eating at this, the food truck overlooking the mountains in the distance, having a restaurant nearby that's also a brewery where you can eat outside, grab your food to go or eat outside at picnic tables. Kids can run around in a beautiful grassy area. It's just a really fun location and it's somewhere different. Super relaxing. We swam. We played garden golf, which is like a cross between miniature golf and real golf. We had like 39-yard holes. So that was fun. Easy waterfall hikes. Just so beautiful and relaxing. It almost felt like we were there, just the four of us. So wherever you're deciding to go for an adventure, whether it's closer to home or further away, and you're thinking about, well, where should we go for next year? And we love waterfalls. Don't sleep on the Waterfall Trail in North Carolina. Just because you think you're like, I've been to the Smokies, I've been everywhere, I've seen it all. There's so much more, and it's not a far drive. Maybe, 9 hours. I would say 9.5 hours, but still an easy drive. Wherever you're going this week, whatever you're doing, life is an amazing adventure. Have fun. Take that trip, make those memories. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.